Hello and welcome to the Authoritas Tea Time SEO, where we encourage everyone to take a 15-minute tea break, connect with others, and learn something new. Has everyone got their cup of tea or coffee ready today? Very good. Perfect. So I'm SEO Joe Blogs. I'm growth marketer at Authoritas, and I'm joined by Sam Ruddy and Carrie Shepherd today from Authoritas. And we also have three great speakers here with us today sharing their tips about understanding user intent. We have Becky Simms, Laursen, Christopher Hofman, Laursen. And actually we have three speakers all from different parts of the world. Becky from the UK, Laurent in Andorra, and Christopher in Denmark. We encourage everyone to take this break and also to ask questions to our speakers. We will be taking Q&A at the end of this session. So without further ado, I'm going to let the speakers introduce themselves, and then Becky will share her top tips.
Perfect. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. So I'm Becky Simms. I'm founder and CEO at Reflect Digital. So we're a digital marketing agency based in Kent in the UK. We're part of the Lab Group. So the Lab Group is a group founded on the idea of an obsession with human behavior. So that's why this topic was so interesting to me, understanding user intent. We've been going for nearly 10 years now as an agency, and with a team of 30. The biggest area of the agency is SEO, but we do paid search and design and build websites as well. So really looking forward to sharing my thoughts with you today.
Great, thank you very much, Becky. And over to Laurent.
Yeah, I've done this for a while. I know a couple of things, and I've only one thing to push. My new YouTube podcast. So it's video, image, text, audio, SEO conspiracy, all your favorite places in the world. It's my new journey with Dixon Jones, where we debunk all the myths and legends of SEO. People have been lying to you.
Well, we'll be checking that out. You released that last week, I believe.
Yeah, thank you for Authoritas. I saw that you pushed me a little bit, so thank you.
No problem. And over to Christopher.
Yeah, hi, my name is Christopher, and I am working at a Danish digital agency based in Copenhagen called Impact Extend. We're basically working with big Danish omnichannel players, also working with some big B2B companies, especially $1 billion market leader in Switzerland that I'm currently working on, which is very exciting. And yeah, I don't do so many talks, but I do talk once a year at SEOday in Copenhagen, in Denmark, about customer journeys, Power BI, and data. And last time about SEO sprints, which is my agile framework for working with SEO in 2020. There will also be a blog post on Moz very soon about that. Yeah, basically trying to challenge the status quo of SEO today. I'm working on a pixel tracker at the moment instead of the traditional rank tracker, doing a Google Volatility Score, which is a new way of looking at competition on Google, and also trying to create, I've created fresh data projects, which is basically working on keyword analysis, but updating data all the time. So you always have new search volume and positions and so on. So
well, it'll be interesting to see those results then.
Yeah.
And hello to Alice that just joined us, Azim and Christina. So I'll pass over to Becky, who will then share her top tips.
Perfect. Thank you, Joe. Cool. So under the topic of understanding user intent, for me, the first thing that we need to do is understand our audience. If we don't understand our audience, then we can't understand the intent that sits behind that. And by understanding their audience, what I really mean is understanding what motivates them and how we can get them to buy into your brand, your product, or your service. So we've got a model to help you do this, and it's called Monkey, Lion, Dog. So it's playfully named, and it was built by Lab, our parent agency agency. And you can follow the URL on screen and go and take the test yourself to find out where you sit on the monkey, lion, dog scale. But the idea is that the monkey is the contextual part of our brains. So they're dominant in monkey, and the traits that you would see within the monkey part of the brain would be the fact that we care more about our status and recognition and purpose, and those types of thoughts. And then the lion is the rational part of our brain. So this is where you might find we're more interested in kind of mastery and achievement and wanting to learn more, etc. Whereas the dog is the emotional part of our brain, and this really it really comes down to where we want to be connected to the people around us. So be that our family, our friends, our team members, or our community. So the dominant values here are affiliation and authenticity. So once we start to look at people with a monkey, lion, dog lens, we can start to break down what we think would be important to them under those headings. So I've taken an example that we'll use throughout my 5 minutes of a marketing manager or a digital marketing manager, and looking at what would be important to them. So for a marketing manager under the kind of monkey heading, they're going to be most interested in making themselves look good to their boss. It might be a way to, well, getting good results is going to help them to get a pay rise or go up to the next level of role in their business. They're going to want to beat the competition, win awards. They want to be seen to innovate and to be setting trends, doing things that other people aren't. They're going to want to make a difference, and for them, career advancement around a promotion, so a better job title, is going to be really important to a monkey. If we move on to like the lion trait, so the lions are going to be really worried about data and wanting to back up decisions with rational logic that they can prove why they made those decisions. For them, it's all about credibility, ROI, achievement. They're going to have a real results focus. And for them, when it comes to advancement in their career, it's going to just be around money. They're not going to care too much what their job title is, but it's going to come back to, well, I'd like to be paid more for this based on the results that I've generated for you. And then we've got our dogs, and our dogs are going to be all about wanting to build relationships. So whether that's within their team, with their suppliers, with their software partners, for example, it's around trust, collaboration, teamwork, and that loyalty that they can show, and a real transparency on any data that they're showing, etc. So that's the kind of things that might drive a monkey, lion, dog. So once we understand what might drive their behavior under the different headings, we can then start to understand what the intent behind a search phrase might be. So after conducting keyword research, you'd probably typically take it to your sales funnel and start to look at the different parts of the funnel. But we would take it one step further. So if we move on, I can show you an example. So we've got our search query on the top line, we've got where in the sales funnel we are, and then we've got our motivations. So if we have a look on the first part, we've got, so in this instance, I thought we'd take search phrases relevant to authoritas. So if someone was looking for SEO software. So at the awareness part of the search journey, they might be searching for how do I measure SEO effectiveness? So they don't even know where to start at this point. And the motivations here that we might want to play back to them in the content are around monkey, and trying to get them to think about, if you can really understand the effectiveness, this can help make you look good and your team around you look good, but in particular yourself from a monkey point of view. And from a lion point of view, if we can understand the effectiveness, we're going to be able to actually put some data behind this and be more rational. We then move on to the discovery phase. So search phrases might be a bit more specific here. So we now know we're looking for an SEO software, an SEO tool, SEO tracking. And again, the motivations probably sit similar, that we're concerned more about this making us look good and trying to find the right software, but also the lion side of it. What data is this going to give me? So they're going to want to start going into a bit more detail. And then we have our intent phase. So at this point, they really want to understand, is this software going to be any good? So the ones that they're kind of shortlisting in their mind, they're going to be looking for SEO software reviews or best SEO software. So the monkey driver comes back in here, especially with that word best. They want to know it's going to be the best software. They want market leading, because that's going to help make them look good. And on the dog side of it, they want to know other people's opinions and understand that actually other people think this is good. And then finally, to finish off, we've got the purchase phase. So just before they make that purchase, they might do a really specific search where they're looking for review of Authoritas software, for example. And this brings back dog and lion. So dog, they really want that tick in the box that another human says it's a good thing, and they want to be able to trust that. And then the lion side of it is that final rational decision, so that they can say to their boss, I've made a good decision here. And that for me is how we look at it.
Great, thank you very much. Pass over to Laurent.
Okay, yeah. I don't know if you understood everything that Becky said, because it was very fast and it's very interesting, but how can I say it? If you know, you understand. But for the people who don't know, that might be a little too much. So I'm going to try to bring it down a notch.
We have some time for questions as well, and okay. Becky has provided some information for a blog post as well to back that up.
I'm going to try to give you some very practical tips. Obviously, I hope you all know what a buyer persona is. So it's trying to model your favorite, your best clients, and so on. But to do it properly, because in my opinion, the offer, what you have to sell, has to adapt to the demand and not the other way around, right? So we have to get into the brain of, or into the mind of the people with our clients or prospective clients. And I had people going as far as redoing the entire living environment of a buyer persona, right? To be able to immerse themselves into the real behavior and into the living situation. Is that person drinking coffee or tea? Is it if it's coffee, is it Nespresso? If it's Nespresso, what kind of I don't know, you say in English, capsule, right? The little Nespresso. So it basically, the tip is make a buyer persona template, but think about it. If you give it to an actor or an actress, is he or she going to be able to play that role? Because I've seen buyer persona, it's just a couple of lines saying, oh, this guy has this age and he lives there and he likes this and not. Or really complete template where you have all the details, because you got the way I work is first we're going to build a content map in the buyer persona style. You don't have a site, you are not yourself, you are that person, and you got to put your set at the center of the mind map and ask the question, what am I interested in? What do I want as far as information? So you got to really forget about you. You are that person. So the more information you're going to have about that person, the more you're going to be able to enter that role. And then second phase, I put the offer back onto the demand. I use mind mapping tool. It's on my old system of topic. Again, SEO conspiracy to know more about how I help people crack the code of how to rank right on Google. But it's very important to understand, to hack the brain of your client. And I don't know any other way than to have the most information possible to be able to play that role. Gather all the information from everywhere you can, support, talk to people, and build a buyer persona template, the most developed as possible. Then there is a special user called Googlebot, right? So that's my specialty. I'm called a search engine hacker. And I'm going to tell you straight up, yeah, the whole thing about build a website for the user and the rest will follow. Good luck with that. If you don't know how to talk well to Googlebot, and Googlebot is dumb, it's stupid. It doesn't understand things like humans. So you got to be very precise. You got to, who is in relation to what and why on the page, around the page, and around the website. Always, if you look at the previous tea time, I play that game of the mystery word game, where if you are able to write, I don't know the TV games you have in England or wherever in the world, but it's a very simple game where you have to make people guess a word, but you can't say that word, right? That's a good page. That's good content that Googlebot is going to understand that user, okay? That specific user. And around the pages that links to the page, same principle, and around the website. I'm going very fast here. It's a little bit complex, but just if you know how to play the mystery word game, you know how to speak to Googlebot. Because this whole thing, build a website for the users and the rest will follow, it's just no. So that's what I call Teletubbies SEO. It was a very famous tea time who, but well, anyway. So then next, you got to learn how to smell the SERP. I know that Laurens loved that term at Authoritas. They're very big fans of smelling the SERP because that's all in there. You got to learn how to look at. Google wants to provide answers for many different intentions. And everything is in front of you. There's what does Google want in the future and what does Google have today. Do you really think that Google wants 10 e-commerce websites on the front page for one keyword? No, it doesn't. So what does it want, right? Think about it. It takes a long time to practice to learn how to see. You don't know how to see. You got to practice that skill. I spent 10,000 or 15,000 hours at staring at those search engine result pages to understand what does Google want really. You don't need to spend that much time because that was back in the days, and now you got all the people explaining it for you. But the key also, if you can go to my next slide, is the buyer persona on steroids. It's something that I discovered through my friend Thomas Kubel. It's called the empathy map, and it goes a little bit further. It was developed by a company called Explain, X and Plain, and it goes like this. We are in the business of empathy. Empathy is the name of the game. So who are we empathizing with? What do they want to do? What do they want? What do they see? What are they saying? What do they do? What do they hear? What do they think and feel? It's again the buyer persona template on steroids. Do this, and you're gonna start to get into the mind. You're gonna start to hack the brain of your customers. You got to be able to be inside their heads. There's no other way, in my opinion. That's the way you have to do it. You have to be able to be inside the mind of your customers, and your offer has to adapt to the demand and not reverse. Am I good on time?
Yes, just on. Thank you very much. So we'll pass over then to Christopher, and please drop your questions in the chat. We will have a Q&A at the end. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Super interesting talks here. Just to sum up first, I would just go through quickly my 5 tips, and then afterwards go a little bit deeper inside those 5 minutes that I have. So, but the first one is basically when we talk about user intent, we want to use more tools, instead of avoiding to have that favorite tool of yours. And then the next thing I want to do is, instead of guessing on the user intent of a keyword, I want to use Google to understand what they actually see as the intent. Thirdly, I want to understand the user's uneducated guess, also referring a little bit to Laurent and about the TV game and about understanding what do they actually mean. And then also, don't accept when users got it wrong. I mean, sometimes Google can show the wrong results because the users are looking in the wrong place. And in the end, just a quick one about looking at small data in Google Search Console. So yeah, next slide. So I so many times on social media, I see this question about what's the best tool, SEMrush or Ahrefs. And really, it's I mean, the right answer is actually both, and more than both. It's basically that every time that we use a tool to reveal something about a user intent, we actually get more data and we understand more about what the user is about, what the user behavior is about. And so in my company, I use, of course, all Google's tools, right? So it's mostly, of course, Google Search Console, Google Analytics, Insight Analytics, understanding Google Ads, search queries which lead to transactions. It's looking at internal site search, when they come to the site and they don't know what to find in there. Maybe we don't have it. Maybe it's just because our site is very complicated. Looking at data through clickstream data tools. So I will get 60% maybe of the data from Ahrefs, but I will definitely get more when I start adding search metrics or SEMrush or whatever. And then last but not least, looking at customers' own data. So for instance, live chat is a super interesting resource to understand what are all the pains that the users are going through. So use as many tools as you can. That's basically my advice to understand user intent. Yeah. And this was what Becky talked about before, actually understanding what keywords belong into each sales funnel stage, right? So until now, I've basically built it on my gut feeling. What if I search for SEO software, what stage will that be in? But actually, so half a year ago, I decided to scrape Google instead. You can probably do that with authorities, I'm sure. I did it with SERP API, but you can scrape Google to understand what are the first results coming up. What kind of results do they display to the users, right? Is it Wikipedia? It's surely an informational search. Are they showing product pages? It's very likely that it's much further down the sales funnel. So you can really do this on big scale by scraping Google. Yeah. So this one is in Danish. I will explain, but it's basically about saying if the user is looking for our solution and they don't know the name of the solution, what words could they use to get there? So if we do that, game, then we will actually go in and find some very interesting keywords sometimes. In this case, I work with an optician in Denmark. They have a very specialized glasses for driving at night, not to get blinded by the lights. And I could just see that many people searched for night glasses, they called it, which is not what you call it in the industry, right? So I had to convince the client that it would be a great idea for them to create a page about night glasses, and in that way try to educate them on what is the actual words, right? So it's also, if you look at, for instance, the example from before with Becky, SEO tools will be before SEO software, right? You're looking for SEO software, but you might want to look for SEO tools first to get there. Yes, the next one. The next slide. So just one back. Perfect. So actually, this example here was also for the same client, that actually you can see that many of our users who actually are searching for a solution to drive at night, they were actually looking for yellow glasses with yellow tint, because let's say if you go mountain biking, for instance, you go into the forest, it's dark, you can get leaves into your face, you want to have something to protect you and you want something to see with, right? So they actually made the connection that yellow glasses used for mountain biking could also serve to drive at night. However, the problem is just that when you're blinded by light, it's actually blue light you get into it, not yellow light. So actually, it will not help you with these glasses. So we had knowledge to actually warn them about using yellow glasses at night, and this meant that instead of just ignoring this and saying, oh, people will go out and buy glasses with yellow tint, we actually created a page about warning about using these glasses. And Google actually, Google's intention from the beginning was just, this is an e-commerce search. We're going to serve Google Ads, and we're going to serve 10 e-commerce searches or results. But when we came out with this new intent, they actually both gave us the featured snippet for an advertorial, and they gave us the first place for this warning against using yellow glasses. So don't always accept that that what you see in Google is also what should be on at the top. And of course, that also comes back to understanding the user, thoroughly. And then my last one is actually, when we bring in all this data and we build our content to cover user intents, go back into Google Search Console and see if there are any intents in our queries here which are not the same as the content that we're presenting on the page, because that's those small clues might show that there's actually a user intent that we're not covering yet, right? So, but it doesn't mean that it's a huge search volume for something. It could mean that there's only very few searches for this particular intent, but it could mean that it's simply the top of the iceberg of a user intent which has not been covered yet. So it's really important to look at small data for big insights. So those were basically my 5 tips regarding how we should look at user intent.
Well, thank you for that. Lots of great tips that you had there. We've also got loads of insights from our 3 speakers today, and we've actually got a few questions as well in the audience. So I'll hand over to Kerry, who will ask some of those questions, and we can get your additional info on them. Thank you.
Great, thanks. So our first question is for Becky. On what study did you base the monkey, lion, and dog trait?
So it's built on a blend of 5 different psychology theories that are already out there. So those are triune brain theory, Firo theory, self-relations theory, pre-needs theory, and a bit of neuro-linguistic programming as well. So Lab spent a couple of years working on how they could pull all of those together and create something that worked and was easy for customers to digest and actually get and use.
Okay, that's really cool. Thank you. We've also got another question for you, Becky. Could you give us an example of a famous monkey, lion, dog? So, for example, what do you think Mark Zuckerberg would be?
So the examples that we have, and these are actually in the platform, if you take the test, you'll find out who you're like. But the ones we've got against monkey at the moment is Steve Jobs. He was driven to change the world, and that was really his main motivation. For dogs, we've got Prince Harry, the fact that he really cares about relationships and his kind of camaraderie that we see that comes through from him. And as a lion, we've got Sir Alan Sugar. So anyone that watches The Apprentice, he's always about rational judgment, and he doesn't really care for any fluff around it. Tell me the numbers, otherwise I don't really care, which is a real lion trait there. So that's kind of one for each of them. Zuckerberg, I don't really know, actually. He's an interesting one, isn't he? I'd say there's definitely quite a lot of rational in there for him. Less monkey from wanting to be center stage, but yeah, it's an
he's an alien. He's not human.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Thank you. We have another one. So, how do you feel that Google understands user intent in different languages and countries? In Laursen's experience, some languages Google is better at understanding user intent than in other languages.
That's actually something I just spoke about on my new YouTube channel, because you can understand that RankBrain is the boss right now at Google. Okay, RankBrain is machine learning, and if you look at it closely, Google is not better; it's worse right now. In the short term, Google is worse than 3 years ago, since they started RankBrain. It's getting better. It's incredible, but the knowledge graph and all that stuff is dumbing out the queries. If it's a simple, like how to make tea, right? That's pretty definite black and white type of thing. But if there's nuance, if there's finesse, it's not there at all. And think about it, trying to go from now it's more like a topic-based type of index. It's a tremendous work. So it's in the making. And of course, Google is not the same. Even if you take let's take the Spanish or English or French in Belgium and Switzerland, Google Belgium or Google Switzerland is way easier to spam, quote unquote, than Google France. And same for, of course, it's but think that it's a machine learning that's trying to do its job. And little by little, it's improving. Don't believe the Google updates. That's all BS. It's just machine learning patterns, right? That's the way it works. And yeah, that's the answer. It is different, but because it's a machine learning algorithm who is heading Google right now, and not humans anymore.
Okay, thank you. So we have another question. What is the best way to learn or analyze customer intention?
I think it's talking to customers, and when we run, say for Monkey Lion Dog, we do persona workshops with our clients, and we'll always ensure that we've got frontline team members there that are talking to customers day in, day out, to actually use them as a way of trying to, if you can't speak to your direct customer, they're the next best one if they're speaking to customers day in and day out, to be able to have those conversations and try and draw out from them what it is that we think are the motivations that sit behind the customer.
Can I look at hold on, let's try to, we're in the business of empathy, but also I'm in the business of undervalued attention. And if you look at this information funnel, you understand that people spend most of the time gathering the information, then they review, they compare. Everybody's fighting here. Everybody else is here. Be smart. Christopher spoke about the customer journey, right? This is all this, and here is very undervalued. And today, in this damage, before when I started in 2003, it was one keyword, one page, one CTR. That's it. Now it's all over the place, and this device, right? People spend all day on this, but they don't spend all day on Google, as far as I know. And all the talks I hear are still about Google desktop version. I can't figure out why SEOs can't adapt. It's about search. We are in the business of search. I don't care if it's on Google, YouTube, Facebook. I don't care if it's paid, free, but move ahead. Forget SEO, Google desktop version. This is the game.
Well, I mean, these days with the corona, we're back to desktop, it seems. But
no, Christopher, please, let's be serious 1 minute, okay?
Well, I think there's a room for a few different opinions. So I think, we've seen some other changes, obviously, in the past, I would say 6 weeks for this type of virus situation. Christopher?
I would like to add to Becky's comment about knowing the consumers. I mean, when people are alone with searches in Google, I mean, that's actually where they're revealing a lot of what they're searching for. So
Google desktop version again.
Yeah, if you can.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, and so can you, Christopher, what do you mean by that?
Yeah,
then?
I mean, if you can combine understanding customers by doing interviews and just getting to know your clients with data, you will have a much stronger case than looking at one part or the other. So I looked at last year. I looked at 2.8 million searches on Google in 1 week in Denmark, and there was so much data there which is not in the official tools. I mean, and I really think it's about just maybe it's about just having a gut feeling, confirming it with data, and then working from there. I mean that the two goes very well hand in hand, I think.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Christopher, but I gotta disagree. Again, that's over for the past 5 years. Why don't you look at YouTube? Why don't you look at Instagram? Why don't you look at what's going on Facebook? All the tools you show, it's Google desktop version.
Well, I think there's variation of opinions, and there's a time and place for everyone, but we're unlimited on time. So we do have 2 more questions to get through, and then you're welcome to also support the blog post that we'll be doing afterwards, which can go into more detail about like the studies that you've done, Christopher, yours as well, Lauren, and the studies that you mentioned earlier, Becky. So I'll pass back over to Carrie to finish off for the last 2 questions of the day.
Thank you, Joe. So we have a question for Christopher. Have you guys ever analyzed customer chats through Python? And if you have, how easy or helpful have you found it from setup to final results?
Yeah, I mean, we were using Python a lot, but basically for this, it was actually Excel, an Excel sheet, and then going directly into Power BI. But the way that we normally, if we're able to, we would like to have the data directly from a tool into BigQuery and then to Power BI to visualize it. So that's basically the way that we work like that.
Great, thank you. And so our last question, where can we do these tests that you're talking about, Becky, the monkey, lion, dog?
So if you go to our website /MLD, so reflectdigital.co.uk/MLD, it will forward you on to the Test on Labs site. Also in the blog post that you're going to publish later this week, there'll definitely be a link in there so you can go and take the test.
Great, thank you. Yeah, so we'll be publishing that blog later this week. I'll send you guys an email with an update with that.
Cool.
And thank you very much to our speakers, Becky, Laurent, and Christopher. We are here every day at 4 p.m. and tomorrow we have 2 experts in local search talking about optimizing for local, and that's with Claire and Fiona tomorrow at 4 p.m. Thanks everyone for being here today and sharing your insights and different opinions. And thanks everyone for joining, Larissa, Fatah, Marij, Azim, Alice, Christina, Flo, Alice again. Please come back again tomorrow, and we'll be writing, as Carrie said, the blog post up to go live later on this week.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.